I couldn't eat for joy. I couldn't eat for pleasure. I couldn't eat without having some deep level of fear. Many leaders, entrepreneurs, and achievers look amazing externally. The great house, the great car, the great body, the nice little handbag. But internally, they're breaking down. It doesn't say be transformed and get a six-pack. No. It's be transformed by the renewing of your mind, because once you renew your mind, you actually change the habits, the behaviors, and thus the patterns in which you're operating with. We aren't just helping people lose weight or get stronger here. We're helping them rewire what they believe about who they are and how they live. I'm your host, Justin Roethlingshoefer, and if it's your first time here, I just want to welcome you. I know we're getting more and more listeners every single day, and so whether you're new or whether you're coming back again this week, I just want to thank you for tuning in, because this means that you are looking for that next step of health in your journey. And what does this mean to actually take ownership of your health? I was having a conversation with somebody a week ago, and they were like, you must be so excited about what RFK is doing for health in this country. And I said, whether it's RFK or whether it's somebody else, whether it was 10 years before in the Obama administration, or whether it's this year in Trump, or whether it was the Biden administration, I don't care who's in office. I don't care who's calling the shots. It's still up to you to make the choice that you want to actually steward your body in the right way, that you want to make a decision. You want to draw a line in the sand of what you are or what you are not stepping over, what you are or are not compromising. Because there was healthy food when Obama was around, there's junk food while RFK's around. It completely is still available for you. It's just a matter of what you're looking for. And so as we've been able to really have these powerful conversations, and really whether it's here on the Own It Show with people like our past guests, or whether it's solo episodes just like this, I just want to thank you, because this is how we help to get the word out, how we help to create awareness, and how we really help people make change. And so the only thing that I ask you is, today or any of these episodes, if they've meant something to you, if they've impacted you, if they've changed the way that you see things or changed the way that you act and behave, all I would ask is that you leave a review for us and that you share it with somebody that you love, because that allows us to get the word out, to reach more people, and ultimately to continue to serve you in a higher way. And so today we're diving in and really just talking about what is real transformation, because I think everybody is selling transformation, right? You've probably been bombarded on your Instagram feed with transformation this, transformation that. I know you're bombarded with different commercials, with different podcasts, with different books that talk about transformation. But what does it actually look like to be transformed? Because I think there's a major difference. There's a major difference between looking transformed and being transformed. Because when you think about it, a lot of people say, hey, we're going to offer you this transformation, but it has everything to do with about six-pack abs and biceps and muscles and weight loss. That's not transformation. What we just talked about, that's easy. Being transformed starts from the inside out. And if you know me and you know a lot of what I've spoken about and the boldness in which I lead with my faith, and you really come back and look at what Own It was built on, is Own It was built on Romans 12, 1 and 2. Therefore, brothers and sisters, I urge you in view of God's mercy to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Those last 7 words, this is your true and proper worship. When I was beginning Own It, when I was starting Own It, when I had this, I call it this spiritual unrest, because I had this vision for what this could become. But it was those 7 words that had me kept going. This is your true and proper worship. It's how are you living? What habits and behaviors are you abiding by? What decisions are you making? What are you choosing? What are you saying yes to? What are you exercising like? What are you going to sleep like? What are you putting in your mouth? What are you doing on a day-to-day basis? This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the patterns of this world. Patterns are just another word for values, and values are executed by the behaviors in which you have. So do not conform to the patterns of this world. Do not conform to the values of this world. Do not conform to the behaviors of this world, but be transformed. Transformed. Transformation starts on the inside out by the renewing of your mind. It doesn't say be transformed and get a six-pack. Be transformed and all of a sudden gain biceps. Be transformed and lose 30 pounds. No. It's be transformed by the renewing of your mind, because once you renew your mind, you actually change the habits, the behaviors, and thus the patterns in which you're operating with, and thus the results, the fruit in your life ultimately be the telltale action. And that's your true and proper worship, because people will look at you and they'll say, my gosh, what are you doing? My gosh, how did you get here? My gosh, I want what you have. But if you're just going for aesthetics, if you're just going for physique, people will say, oh my gosh, what are you doing? And you're like, I did macro counting and I exercise 45 times a day. And in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, dude, you don't want to do what I did to get here. I feel like I'm dying on the inside. I've been there. I've done that. And so today, the big idea we want to talk about is transformation is not perfecting what's visible. It's redeeming what's eternal. It's not changing just the outside, but rather what does it look like to be transformed inside? And there's both a spiritual and a physical side of this. You've heard me talk a lot about cellular testing and DNA and epigenetic testing and HRV and sleep quality data. You've heard me talk about all this. This, I believe, is paramount to understanding what's happening inside so we can walk the ways down the path of true transformation. Otherwise, we're just settling for a cheap substitute. And so before we actually understand this, we have to go back into the definition of what is truly transformation versus confirmation. And what I mean by confirmation is not confirming, but rather conforming. Because the patterns of this world, like I said, are nothing more than deeply ingrained values. Deeply ingrained values. What do you value? I think a lot of times we sit here and as listeners, we may be like, oh yeah, I've done the core values thing before. I've gone through it. I've thought about it. I've talked about it. I've said everything I need to say. Well, when we come back to core values and we go, okay, what are the core values of Own It? This is something that we had that was like really bullish on. There's excellence, commitment, trust, integrity, and ownership. Those are the 5 core values of Own It. Now, when we think about those 5 core values of Own It, yes, they sit on a wall. Yes, we talk about them. Yes, we send gifts a few times a year out to our team members that have these values. Yes, when we get on our monthly calls with our team, we start by honoring every single person on the call and giving each and every person another opportunity to honor somebody else who's abided by one of our 5 core values. We have these in there. Why? Because they're not just words on a wall. They're not just things that are random, but rather these values drive behaviors, and thus the behaviors shape the results. And so when we think about those core values, we think about the core values of excellence. We show up with excellence. It's not just something that we say that we say we do, but we actually are excellent. We're excellent in our client experience. We're excellent in the results in which we get. We're excellent in how we show up. We're excellent in our energy. We're excellent in terms of the small details. Commitment. We are committed to our customers. We're committed to our clients. We're committed to the end result. We're committed to our process. We're committed to making sure that there is a rare and powerful experience for everybody that we touch. Trust. We make decisions to gain the trust of those that we serve. Integrity. We only do the things that are right. We don't give you false science. We don't adjust the narrative so that you ultimately are able to come in and feel better. That's manipulation, not integrity. And then ownership. We own our mistakes. We own our positive outcomes. We own the things in which we want to get better. And I even say in ownership, there's a level of innovation. We take ownership that we are the innovators in this space. And so all of these values are so tightly tied to behaviors that they ultimately shape the results that we get. And my question is, what does this look like for you? What values do you say you operate from? Now, if you tell me that you operate from a sense of excellence, but yet you're not excellent in how you eat. You're not excellent in how you sleep. You're not excellent in how you exercise. You're not excellent in how you recover. I would question whether excellence is actually a value of yours. If discipline is a value of yours, but yet you hit the snooze button every single morning, you don't get to the gym 4 days a week, you ultimately don't pack your lunch, you don't get your water intake per day, you don't make sure that you give yourself prayer time, devotional time, quiet time, I would question whether discipline is actually a value of yours. Because it's so easy to say the things that we actually want, but it's a whole nother thing to live in alignment with them. Because we have to come back to that values are simply behaviors, and those behaviors drive the results that we get. And if you don't consciously choose kingdom values, you unconsciously accept worldly ones. So don't expect yourself to have the transformation that you want. You're rather just going to be conforming to the patterns of this world. So don't be frustrated that you're getting the results the world gets. Don't be frustrated that you're getting, that you're just a part of the stats of the 65% of Americans that have 2 or more chronic illnesses. Don't be upset that you are one of the 60% of Americans that's obese or overweight. Don't be upset that you're on the verge of some type of autoimmune issue. Don't be upset that your results just came back and you're you're on the verge of diabetes. Like, you can't be upset, because the values that you've failed to set are equivalent to the behaviors that you've failed to choose consciously, and thus the results you're getting are those of that you're following, which is worldly ones. Because here's the example of worldly patterns, and here's how we start to get into them. And I want to call them out because there's this grind culture, right? Entrepreneurs, business owners, people of service, people who are doing, people who are giving. They're like, I need to be in this, so I've got this grind culture. That's what the world tells us. The more I do, the better I am. The more I serve, the more righteous I can be. The more that I take on, the more impact I can have. And so this grind culture leads to a health or a sacrifice of your health. And we've seen it over and over and over and over again. It leads to that burnout. At least I don't have time. But rather, we know, again, we have to come back to the truth. We have to come back to the truth. If this is your true and proper worship, if you believe that grinding is true and proper worship, that means that God can't do anything for you, and rather he needs you to do everything. And thus he can't be working in the back end. You have to be all working on the front end. He can't have a plan for you. You have to figure out that plan. You have to make the first cut. You have to continue to navigate the fog. You have to figure out what the end plan is before you're even going to start to go. And so you have to keep grinding more and more and more and more. But we're never going to realize the transformation, which is true thriving in our health, which is how we were created, if we continue to lean into that grind culture, which causes us to continually sacrifice our health. And it shows up in different ways. It might be that all of a sudden you have, I had some guy about 6 months ago reach out to me that all of a sudden had, it felt like overnight blindness. And he reached out and we started talking. And I had him go through a series of tests. We ultimately found that when we measured his HbA1c, which is his blood glucose numbers, that he was not only pre-diabetic, but he had actually touched into like actual diabetic numbers. And he's like, my gosh, I've never even gotten this done before. I had no idea. And so for about 3 months, we worked really closely and we focused so heavily on getting all the sugars out of his diet. We focused on, we got him a continuous blood glucose monitor. We got him a sleep tracker. We got him a Whoop band. We started to measure HRV. We started to measure sleep quality. Why sleep quality? When you get into those slow wave and REM stages of sleep, the quality sleep, it actually starts to regulate blood sugar better. It's called ghrelin that we start to have a better insulin response with. We started to have him doing zone 2 exercise every single day. We started to program for this. 3 months later, miraculously, his sight comes back. You see the patterns of the world that you were following, all while, I have to go back to this, all while his doctors wanted to do eye surgery. His doctors wanted to put him on 3 different pharmaceuticals. They wanted to put him on diabetes insulin shots. Now he's just a part of the system. But 3 months later, he's miraculously healed. And you talk about this is for so long he was living in accordance to what the world had told him, and it left him blinded. Now, you might not be blinded overnight, but you might have woken up this morning going, man, I'm like 40 pounds heavier than I should be. You might have woken up and go, man, like I've got this ringing in my ears that won't go away. My gosh, I've got this autoimmune disorder that suddenly popped up. My gosh, I'm suddenly deaf. I can't hear. My gosh, I've got this back pain that's suddenly come about. These things didn't all of a sudden happen. It was because we're following an unconscious behavioral system that's led us down the results of what the world has given us. It might be an image obsession. I recognize this heavily. Being obsessed with how I looked for so long, anorexia as a kid. I still battle with some of these image obsessions every single day, but I have to keep coming back to the truth. And when we focus so heavily on that image, that body image, for me as a young kid, I had a fear of being fat. And so thus I tracked every single thing I ate. I focused on limiting my diet. I was so obsessed about everything. I couldn't eat for joy. I couldn't eat for pleasure. I couldn't eat without having some deep level of fear. And it ultimately eroded my identity. It eroded who I thought I was, who I believed I was, who I even knew that I was. And it wasn't until I came back to like, that's actually not where the obsession should be. That's actually not what it's all about, is what's on the outside, but rather on the inside. Because as I went through that, and as I got the 6-pack abs, as I got the muscles, guess what I found out at 17 years old? Hey, Justin, your kidneys and your liver are failing because you've actually starved yourself. And so what does this look like to take back ownership? Because the grind culture, the image obsession, and the quick fixes that we've been told that we need are taking us further down a path of the world that's going to get us the results that the world allows. You can't behave differently for a little while and expect there to be sudden changes. But without a new set of values, your patterns will snap right back into place. You have to have different values. What do you value? Do you value the 6-pack abs and the bulging muscles? Is that what you value? Great. Then we're probably not the people for you. We're probably not the audience for you. But I'll tell you what, if you really want to create change from a habit and behavior standpoint that is sustainable, that is going to be a lifestyle for you, that is going to be your true and proper worship, that's going to be something you take ownership of, I guarantee you that the results that you're chasing, that you want, that you're desiring will not only be achieved, but they'll actually stop, turn around, and start chasing after you. You will be shocked at how great you feel. You will be shocked at how great you look. You will be shocked at how clear you think. Why? Because that's how you were created. But it requires you to do things that are different from what the world tells you. And it starts with, what do you actually focus on? I was telling this story from stage the other day, and it was so powerful that I knew I needed to integrate it into this podcast today. And I don't know if anybody out there has ever seen this show, Is It Cake? Over Christmas, this is embarrassing to say, but over Christmas, for some reason, I went on like a week-long obsession with this show called Is It Cake? It was on Netflix, and what would happen is these professional cake makers would come on and they would be given an object. So some type of real life object. So let's say, for example, you were given a cheeseburger, or you were given a roller skate, or you were given a dumbbell, or you were given a backpack. And so what each person had to do was they had to make a cake, and they had all of these different ones that were the actual object, and you had to pick out which one was the cake. And if you picked out which one was the cake, then you were the champion, you were the winner. And so what they would do is when the contestants would come in, they'd look at all the objects, they'd look at all the 5 displayed objects that were there, and the host would have a knife, and they'd say, I want object 2. And they'd go up and they'd cut it, and maybe they cut into a roller skate. But then sometimes they'd cut in, and all of a sudden they'd get through and it was cake. And it's just like our bodies. Many leaders, entrepreneurs, and achievers look amazing externally. The great house, the great car, the great body, the nice little handbag. but internally they're breaking down. Internally they're breaking down. And I see this all too often. All too often. You got the pastor who's got a thriving church, but yet he's burnt out. He's exhausted. He's got health issues that he can't figure out what's happening. He feels like he's breaking at the seams. You've got the business owner who's doing $50 million a year. He's got a team of 100. And he's got the great suit on. He's got the big team. He's got the commercials everywhere. He's got the big, beautiful building that he walks into every single day. But he takes his clothes off and he's 50 pounds overweight and he has to come home and stab himself with testosterone and then Ozempic. I mean, this isn't a fallacy, guys. This is literally what we're dealing with when we look at this. We've had 4 clients specifically over the last, let's just call it the last 3 weeks, that I'll not name them, but give you the examples. We had a client with 6-pack abs. Came in, he looked great. He went through a program to get those 6-pack abs, paid 15 grand for a 4-month program to get 6-pack abs. But all of a sudden, we find him in our program because, yeah, he got the 6-pack abs, but his testosterone's all out of whack. He's got headaches that won't go away. He literally decayed himself from the inside out in order to get what on the outside he was wanting. We had another client come to us crushing Ironman races. He had done 6 Ironmans in 3 years, 2 a year. But again, he couldn't stay asleep. He was suffering from deep, deep insomnia, HRV of 8, because his hormones were wrecked. He wasn't overtrained. He was under-recovered. We have a client who looked incredible in his suit. Incredible. He's actually owns a custom suit company. Looked incredible in his suit. I still remember the first day I saw this guy. I just got off a stage and he walked up and you could just tell, like, pristine. But he comes up, he goes, "Man, you were speaking to me today because I'm pre-diabetic. I don't know how I got here." Client with a beautiful family. But literally, she feels like she's dying inside, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Can't keep consistent with any type of habits. Because what you look like is not what you are. We have to separate the identity from who we are inside to who we are on the outside. And true transformation is not what impresses man. True transformation is not what impresses man. It's what pleases God. And we have to come back to that. This is your true and proper worship. What are your habits? What are your behaviors? How are you sleeping? How are you eating? How are you training? How are you recovering? What do those habits look like? Is that what gets put at the front of the priority list, or does it actually take a back seat and a back burner? Because when I talked about last week or 2 weeks ago, in the sense that you're battling an invisible enemy, somebody who doesn't want you well, somebody who doesn't want you thriving, because if you're well and thriving, you're going to be on the pursuit of the God-given mission that you have, that's going to impact and influence people in a way that is going to change the world. And if it doesn't change the world, it's going to change the world that you live in. And so we have to come back to the concept that true transformation starts on the inside. If you're not looking at what's happening on the inside, we can't tell if it's cake or not. We can't tell if it's cake. Because you line up, I see it down here in Miami all the time. You line up 50 people. They look strong. They look like they've got muscles. Go right along the entire path. 50 people. This one has autoimmune disorder. This one's perimenopausal. This one has low testosterone. This one can't sleep. This one has no energy. This one can't wake up without 5 cups of coffee and 3 glasses of wine to go to sleep. You go down the list and they're all the same. And so at the end of the day, nobody's actually themselves. You open them up and they're all dying on the inside. True transformation starts on the inside based upon the values which ultimately are changing the patterns of this world. And the process of true transformation does not happen overnight. And when I thought about this process of transformation, it's like, okay, how does this happen? Because I think so often we think like, oh my gosh, it's going to happen quickly. Oh my gosh, I can make it happen fast. But we have to be willing to wait. We have to be willing to wait. And we have to be willing to do things differently. Because the first thing we have to do when we think about transformation is we have to offer your body. Offer your body as a living sacrifice. Your physical health matters in worship. Because at the end of the day, when I think about it, I used to think of exercise and training as like that. It truly became like, my God, I could not skip it. I couldn't get away from it. Why? Because I had a fear of being fat. And I realized that I had taken it so far to one level that it actually started to ruin me. But now what I see this as, like, this thing that I live in, my gosh, it's the tool, it's the vehicle, it's the vessel, it's the only thing that I can do to carry out the call that's on my life. And so when I'm able to show up in something that is not a rundown pickup truck, but rather, no, man, this is a well-tuned sports vehicle. Like, this thing has 8 gears. This thing can gear up and this thing can gear down. This thing is meant to take corners tightly. This thing is meant to go quickly. This thing is meant to be agile. And ultimately, when I'm living this way, I'm able to show up for God and his calling for me in so much greater detail. Because when a door is opened, I can go. And when I've now started to do this, it's amazing how it's opened up more doors and healed more people than I can even begin to describe. I was just speaking this past weekend at a JC Height. It was his event. It was called A Scale with Stability. It was primarily, it's a business focused event, but it was for a lot of marketers. And there was a room of about 600 people. And as I was up there, I was just prompted at the very end to ask anybody who was looking for transformation of their health, like true transformation. This was going after the very end of my presentation, 45 minutes, talking about HRV, sleep quality, a lot of those internal metrics, the things we need to know. About 95% of the room stood up. 95% of the room. And I asked them, what do you want healing from? People said their weight. People said perimenopause. Some people said back pain. Some people said headaches. It was across the board. Energy. Like, those were the 4 or 5 main things. Low testosterone. 4 or 5 things that I heard over and over and over and over again. And I just simply said, how many of you are living outside of this is true and proper worship? How many of you are eating, hydrating, sleeping, doing the things that I talked about today? Nobody raised their hand. They said, how many people want to rededicate themselves to a life that's aligned with what God wants? We had like 400 people give themselves to Christ that day in a health talk. Those are the doors that are opening up when you offer your body as a living sacrifice. Number 2 is you have to sacrifice pride and performance. I'm telling you, when I used to get on stage, it was like, how can I look good? Now it's no, can I just serve one person? And you have to stop pretending you have it all together. I've told you guys the story of racing high rocks. You heard my story with James this past week, where it has nothing to do about us. It has nothing to do about winning. I had to stop racing high rocks in 2023 simply because it became all about winning. And if I didn't win, I saw myself as a loser, as a failure. I had performance anxiety day in and day out. I started to hate it. But really, it's about sacrificing pride and performance and focusing on the process, focusing on bringing people with you, focusing on what does it look like when you don't have it all together. And as a consequence, we've won. As a consequence, we've run faster. As a consequence, we've done better. Which leads us to number 3, which is renew your mind. Different thoughts lead to different values, lead to different behaviors, which lead to a different future. We have to come back to, what are you committing to? Are you committing with language like, I'll try, or I have to do this, or I'll do it until I get X? Or are you like, no, I'm all in on this. I'm a whatever it takes guy. I'm a whatever it takes girl. I'm going to do whatever it takes in order to steward my body well so that I can ultimately carry out the call, because I want the abundance that's on the other side. I want the transformation. I don't want to continue to keep going on the way that I am. Because when we think about this at Own It, this is what we talk about. The framework of transformation that we lean into at Own It is about our physical health of stewardship, not idolization. We talk about, how do you steward your body well? Not all about the 6-pack abs and the muscles and all the eyes on you and the sexification of what that actually is. No. This is about stewardship. Let's steward our body so we can lean into what's there. From the mental side, it's about ownership over the inputs and beliefs. What are we putting in? Who are we exposing ourselves to? What are we thinking about? And what are the beliefs that we have about this so that we can ultimately look at emotional health and healing wounds, not numbing them? Being able to get deep into the root cause of that. That's why we have your mental performance coaches. That's why we have your spiritual coaches. That's why we have this component built in. It's not just about the nutrition. It's not just about the sleep. It's not just about the exercise. It's not just about the testing. It's not just about the data, but it's healing the wounds, because leaders who fail to heal wounds simply lead from a place of bleeding. And unconsciously, we bleed all over those that we're trying to lead. So we have to heal those wounds. We can't numb them. And then spiritual health, what is God saying? Let's hear God, not just achieve for God. I know we're all out there. We're trying to grow. We're trying to grow the impact. But my gosh, what's he asking you to do today? Maybe he's asking you, hey, you know what? I can't bless you with more because you're not going to be able to handle it. Hey, I can't increase your influence because it's going to require a demand on your body that your body's just not able to actually handle. So when is it time for you to say, hey, I'm standing up for true transformation because I have to transform from the inside out? I'm hoping it's today. And if it is today, I'm hoping you're going to go to ownitcoaching.com and book a call. I'm hoping that there's so much conviction on you that you're going to start to explore and start to ask better questions, because we know, just as Jesus did, the answer is a question. Because we aren't just helping people lose weight or get stronger here. We're helping them rewire what they believe about who they are and how they live so that they can realize the gifts that they have on the other side. They can realize the gifts that they have on the other side. So I want to ask you, what patterns are you conforming to without realizing it? What patterns are you conforming to, and thus what values are you actually operating at? I want you to look at your life right now, your state of reality. Maybe you're frustrated about something. Maybe you're overwhelmed. Maybe you're not sleeping well. Maybe you're overweight. Maybe you haven't been in the gym for years. Maybe you've got terrible pain. What values are driving your daily behaviors? And then if you were to actually look at it, what does real transformation need to look for you right now? Because transformation doesn't happen when you just hustle harder. It simply happens because you choose to surrender deeper. So my prayer right now is that this would be so convicting to you that you are surrendered, in a state of surrender where you're like, hey, I need help. I need a team around me. I need a guide. I need somebody who's actually going to hold my hand and go on this journey with me. And if that's you, then do not look any further and simply book a call. Reach out. Take the hand. Take the hand. I was out in Coronado Island with the Navy SEALs. I think I've told this story before. They were going through their entire drilling. They were getting hit by waves in the ocean, locked arms. They were crawling on hands and knees through the sand, getting into helicopters, jumping out, pulling 250-pound dummies over onto the beach. And after they were done, after about 4 hours, I went to their captain. I said, Captain, that was amazing. That was amazing. But on a day when the wind's blowing, the thunder's rolling, the lightning striking, the waves are 20 feet high, you got a capsized boat with 150 people in there, and you've got to send your men and women to jump and go save people. Who are you saving first? He goes, Justin, who do you think? And I thought it was the struggling. I thought it was the people who were on the verge of death. I thought it was the women and children, the weaker people, the people who are swimming towards the helicopter, because those are the people that give us the greatest opportunity to save the most people. So this is your helicopter. The helicopter's here. But I need you to start swimming towards it. I don't want you to struggle. I don't want you to be in a prison in your own body. I don't want you to feel like you're abandoned. There's a helicopter here, but it needs you to reach out. It needs you to swim. It needs you to say, hey, that's me. Hey, I want to see the transformation. I no longer want the ways of the world. I no longer want to do the quick fixes, the fad diets, the things that are continually leaving me empty, broken, and struggling. I want true transformation. Because when you put your hand up for true transformation, there's a renewal of your mind that sets you free. There's a breaking of the chains that gives you new strength. And everything that you're looking for aesthetically suddenly starts to turn around and chase after you, to give you the capacity to actually take on what's waiting for you on the other side. So I ask you, is today the day that you do something different? Is today the day that you decide to live different? Because we know one thing, success is different. So own your different. And we'll see you guys next week.